You'll never discover what God can do until you trust him to do it, and he can do it in ways that'll blow your mind when he sees your faith. By faith, it says. But watch this now. Verse 24, by faith. Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to endure ill treatment with the people of God than to enjoy the passing pleasures of sin, considering the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures of Egypt, for he was looking to the reward. Let me tell you the second thing faith does. Biblical faith chooses not only God's plan over the culture's plan, it chooses God's priorities. It chooses God's priorities. It says that when Moses had grown up, he became an adult. When Moses grew up, he refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. Why did it take Moses 40 years to make this decision? Because he's caught between two worlds. See, his mama is raising him. Acts chapter 7 says his mother nurtured him. So his mother's whispering in his ear, hey, you belong to God. You're not an Egyptian. You are Hebrew. You belong to God. You're the offspring of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You're part of God's divine covenant to Israel. But then he got over here. He got the daughter of Pharaoh saying, hey, come on now, come on, I want to make you, you're going to be the smartest, the richest, the most powerful man in the world. That's what I have in store for you. So Moses for 40 years is being told by two different mothers. He's being pulled in two different ways, and it took him to the age 40 to get right. But at the age 40, it says he made a choice and he refused. I will no longer be known as an Egyptian. I am now going to be known for what I truly am. I belong to the people of God. Verse 25, choosing rather to endure ill treatment with the people of God than to enjoy the passing pleasures of sin. You see the word, verse 25? Choosing. Because faith demands a choice. He made a choice. Many of us have not yet made the choice. Many have, but many have not made the choice. You're still dancing between two realities. I'm talking about ill treatment because you associate with your faith, and your faith governs your decisions. So I don't do that because I'm a Christian. I can't do that because I'm a follower of Christ. That's where I take my stand, and I know there may be repercussions. That's why that first word in the next verse is so important, because the first word in verse 26 says, considering the reproach of Christ. Considering means to think it through carefully. He looked at the pros and cons. And when he looked at the pros and cons, he said, instead of enjoying, watch this, the pleasures of sin for a season. Now, he tells you two things about sin. First of all, he says sin is fun. Okay? And anybody who doesn't think sin is fun hasn't sinned right yet. But he says the second thing about sin, he says, while sin is fun, it's also seasonal. He called it the passing pleasures of sin. It's seasonal. He made a decision that it's a lot of fun being the son of Pharaoh's daughter. And if I go over here and hang out with God's way, God's word, and God's people, I'm going to be ill-treated like they are. I looked at the pros, I looked at the cons. I looked at the pros, I looked at the cons. And Moses at age 40 says, I have decided that I am no longer going to be identified with Pharaoh's daughter as the heir apparent to the throne of Egypt. I have now decided at 40 years old, I am going to cast my lot, whatever the repercussions are, with the people of God. Now, the question is, why make that decision? If I know I'm going to get mistreated, buked and scorned, talked about, show as you born, if I know that there could be negative repercussions, why risk it? That's the question. Because he says in verse 26, considering the reproach. Reproach means the shame, the criticism. To bear the reproach means to associate with Jesus Christ and your faith and understand that that will bring with it some shame. That is shame of rejection, like Jesus was rejected. So why do it? Watch this now. Considering verse 26, the reproach of Christ, greater riches than the treasures of Egypt, for he was looking to the reward. Watch this now. So there was a motivation factor here. It wasn't just so he was so spiritual, he thought this thing through, and what he discovered was the payoff with Christ is better than the payoff with the world. And he calls it a reward.